Welcome to Smart Women Talk. This is your host, Katana Abbott. I'm a midlife millionaire coach and a certified financial planner, and I search the world for smart women and a few good men, including best-selling authors and thought leaders who are on that leading edge. So join us for conversations on money, business, health, and inspiration, so you can live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity. Hello, everyone. This is Katana Abbott, and I want to welcome you to Smart Women Talk. I'm so excited you're here today. This month, we are talking about the millionaire mindsets and habits. And on this show specifically, our guest, Mike Gruley, who is a corporate coach, success coach, entrepreneurial coach, is going to be sharing with us the millionaire mindset secrets that will create more ease and happiness in your life. Because have you ever thought about how millionaires think? Some research and some shows that I've done with Lewis Schiff, he actually did a whole study on millionaires, and the millionaires, and we're talking anywhere from $1 million up to 30 million and up, they actually think completely different than people who aren't millionaires. And so today we're going to be talking about not only how millionaires think, but we're going to be talking about tools that you're going to be able to implement in your life, whether you're an entrepreneur, a retiree who's launching a third act, maybe you're in corporate, but you're going to learn tips that are going to help you have more ease and happiness and success in your life. And so with that, I just want to turn this over to Mike Gruley, who is our guest. Mike, have you been here 2 times so far?
I think so, yes.
So this might be your 3rd time back, right?
3rd time's a charm. That's what they say, right?
Okay. We love you to death. And you and I actually met decades ago. I remember we did a panel discussion on caregiving to a whole group of attorneys. That had to be 2 decades ago, 20 years ago.
I think it was, at least that, yeah.
Yeah. And since that time, both of us have been doing a lot of work with entrepreneurs, with coaching. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing this last 30 years now?
Thanks, Katana. It's so great to be with you. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. So I grew up in a family of 6 kids, had a family business. We worked in the business. And for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe I was dropped as a baby. I was the only one of the 6 kids that really had entrepreneurship in my DNA. All my brothers and sisters all worked for big companies and government, but my dad and I were locked together as just real entrepreneurs. So as soon as I jumped out of college, I started a business, and the business was great. But as I grew my business and built it to a certain size, I just felt like, man, it was frustrating. It was like running in the sand, trying to get it going. And so I came across the entrepreneur operating system, which is called EOS, and I hired an EOS implementer to implement EOS into my company. And it not only changed my company, but it changed my life and how I balance things, how I find that I can still drive the business, but still have a little peace in my life. And so that led me down a path. After many years, I sold my business and became an EOS implementer myself. So now my love, my passion is I get to help other entrepreneurs that were in the same place I was get out of that chaos, get unstuck, and build unstoppable companies that they love running, that people love showing up to every day, and they still have personal life too. The business isn't running them, they're running it. So that's what I get to do. It's what I love doing. And these things we're talking about are the things I love to talk about. So glad to be with you here today.
So I heard you say the business is running them. So let's talk about that. Especially, I want to talk about entrepreneurs, because I remember Lee Iacocca said that you can be in corporate America and still be an entrepreneur, because he was known as Lee Iacocca, the problem solver, the visionary. He was an entrepreneur, even though he was an executive in a big corporation. So this idea, I just want to hit on this topic, because I think a lot of people that watch the show, listen to it, have had that entrepreneurial mindset. Let's just talk about what that is, because I know many of them go into business as the chief cook and bottle washer because they are so talented, but they end up getting successful but they burn out.
Yeah, and no, you make a good point too. Just because someone works in corporate America doesn't mean they're not entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial people are typically very visionary. They're the doers, they're the thinkers. I would argue 10 or 15, 20% of everything that really gets done new in the world is by these types of people. What I refer to as driven people. These are people that you can be doing anything. And it doesn't mean that you have to be in a career or a business. You could be just raising a family. Think about families that have 7 or 8 or 9 kids. Wow, you are really driven. Some people have 1 or 2 kids. Some people, I know, have a friend who has 8 kids. That's driven. You're a driven person. You like to grow and build and do new things and learn and experiment. But that also can be very challenging because driven people, those of us who are driven, it's in our DNA. So it's a blessing, but it's a curse because it can really lead us down some bad paths sometimes. It's all good, but it can lead us down bad paths. Sometimes people that are very driven, they have very addictive personalities. And if you're addicted to the right things, growth and new things and building businesses, having children, families, doing whatever, that's great. If you are addicted to the wrong things, drugs, alcohol, gambling, those sorts of things, those generally don't have good outcomes. But nonetheless, driven people feel the need to be doing stuff all the time. So they need to find ways to channel that into the things that they love, the things that are good things that make the world a better place, make them better people inside.
What are some of the things that happen that cause them to hit that, as Dan Sullivan calls it, the ceiling of complexity? They hit that point where they're so successful, they're really making all this money, but they're not happy because they hit that ceiling of complexity. And what can those people do so they can keep that drive?
Okay, so I had the benefit lately of going through a 10-week workshop called The 10 Disciplines for Managing and Maximizing Your Energy. And it was created by Gina Wickman and Rob Dubay. Gina Wickman happens to be the founder of EOS Worldwide. He wrote the book Traction, so he is the idea guy for everything that is EOS and spreading through the country and the world right now. And it comes from his own personal experience. He created these 10 disciplines because he found that when we are immersed in our drivenness, we create this persona of ourselves. We build this armor to get us through, to fight the fight. And so we're fighting this fight and we don't pick our heads up. We're going to be successful. We're going to win the race, climb the mountain. And one day we do, as you said, we do. We climb the mountain, we ring the bell, we're there with our armor on. And then we realize that's all been ego. And when I say ego, I don't mean ego like arrogance. Ego, everything we've done has come from a place of fear. Everything we've done to get there is a place of not always being who we are, perhaps. We did what we had to do to get the job done. And so when we do achieve what we wanted to achieve, again, we get to that top of the mountain, ring the bell, then we realize the pressure's off. And now we find that we don't know who we are sometimes. We don't know what we love. We don't know what inspires us. Try to imagine a combat veteran coming out of war. This is what causes a lot of PTSD. They have to be a certain way in the battle if they're going to be effective. But the day they come home and they sit on their couch, watch the football game, and they know they're safe, everything changes. They have to redefine who they are because what was going on over there isn't going on here anymore. And that's an exaggerated example of what happens often in business is we get so entrenched in it that we become this warrior. And at some point, we take off our armor and we don't know what's important on the inside. We haven't worked on the inside of us. And these 10 disciplines that I went through this workshop was wonderful, just wonderful. A deep dive into 10 different things that help you reconnect with who you are and work on that inside, but still be able to nurture that driven part of us, because that part doesn't go away. It's part of our DNA. We're always doing stuff.
And so with so many of us, it's what we get up every morning excited to go do it. I absolutely love what I do, but you're right. I can get so buried in it that I ignore my health, my family, everything else in my life. And I just spoke with a 50-year entrepreneur who I'm doing some retirement planning with about when to take Social Security. And he said to me, he can't find anyone, nobody who can do what he does because it's so diverse. And so anyway, he finally confessed. And the biggest problem I have is I don't know what my purpose would be if I retire. So whether it's retirement or just having a life outside of that job, can that be an issue too? That they're so tied to the identity of that job, not realizing that they're really, like you said, they're a human being and they have more of a life.
All right. So I think you're spot on. And that example might seem like one, but that example is very common. And the reason Gino Wickman and Rob Dubay put together this workshop is because in Gino's example, he would tell you, I worked with EOS Worldwide to make it what it is. And it was a struggle and it was a fight and it went on for years. And here we are, we're successful. And he sold that business. And he said, and I sat on my couch at home and I said, I did it. And he said, and everything started flowing over me, all these things. He tells an interesting story. He told me once, he said, my wife threw me a 30th birthday party, surprise birthday party. And I walked into the room and there were all my relatives and all my friends and all these business associates and all these hundreds of people that have touched my life. And I felt fear because I was a different person for every one of those people in a room. I didn't know exactly who I was to be. I was a different person. Have you ever felt that? I have.
Oh, yeah.
Walk in the room, I go, oh my gosh, Katana's in the room and Joe, my friend's in the room, and they're going to see me. They see me differently. They see me differently because I probably was different to them. Mm-hmm. So this journey on the 10 disciplines is about figuring out who our true self is. And that revelation came to Gino when he jumped out of the battle, right? Still very driven. He writes books, he does podcasts, he does lectures, all this stuff. And your friend, this is probably one of the greatest fears of retirement, is these are driven people. These aren't box checker type people. They need to build, grow, do things. And they're worried that when I retire, what am I going to do? So part of retirement, at least when I talk to my teams and my owners about what's next, when they start talking succession plan, I start saying, you need to start working on what your next act is going to be. Because it's not just the financial part. It's not just the selling the company or passing it down to family members. It's what are you going to do so that you can fulfill this need you have inside to be driven? Because there's some bad things you can do if you're driven, gambling, drugs, whatever, bad habits. So we want to make sure we have a plan for those behavioral things. And these 10 disciplines, we're really good in isolating how we think about that stuff and focusing on not just working on our outer world, but working on our inner world at the same time.
Right.
I don't think there's anything more important than having, at any age, by the way, of having a purpose and meaning in your life. And it's hard to find when you go through life, especially when you're young, trying to figure it out in your 20s, 30s. It's tough. Whether you want family, whether you want relationships, what kind of career you want, whether you want to own a business, do you want to work for a company, all these decisions, and you find your way. It's the Forrest Gump method. You do your best at everything and see what your fate is. But I think when we get to that stage towards the end, when we have a little more breathing room, because maybe when you're young, you don't, it's, hey, I got to pay my rent. I got to do what I have to do. And we all get that. You got that armor on trying to find a way. And I think the transition is that as you get older, like you said about this client, it's not about the money now. So what is it about? Let's not forget what's meaningful and purposeful in our lives, whether that means some sort of work that makes money, a business or something, or a job, or if it's just some charity work or something you do with family and friends, but it needs to have some sort of focus. Driven people commonly have successes along the way. They have a goal and they hit it. Then they say, next, I want to do this, and they hit it. But what they tend to find when you talk to a lot of driven people is they say, I hit the goal, but I don't know, what else is there? I need something more. It's how they're built. They just need something more all the time. And in the absence of some new thing that is meaningful and purposeful for them, it might end up being something that's not good for them, eating too much or whatever, smoking too much or whatever. I think it's really important that they're always asking these questions of themselves. What do I want next? And what brings the light out in me, brings that energy out, brings that excitement out in me? Because that's also a light that shines on the world too. When people really find what they love to do and it's meaningful to them, then all that other stuff falls away and they really are a light in the world. And that's very contagious too.
So what of the 10 disciplines, just share the first one that is coming to mind that you think would be applicable for our listeners?
Okay, so first of all, let me say this. This isn't a workshop that I do. This was a workshop created by Gino Wickman and Rob Dubay. I just attended it and I loved it so much. It was meaningful to me. But the first discipline is 10-year thinking. Bill Gates once said, most people overestimate what they can get done in a year, but terribly underestimate what they can get done in 10 years. So when you start thinking in terms of longer term, 5 years or 10 years, it slows things down. You don't feel this urgency. And so you get better clarity. You start to make decisions from a clearer place as opposed to hurry up, quick, fast. The ironic part is you get there faster because you're more focused and you're more clear about what you want. You feel like you have time. And so in that exercise, you write down, pick a time frame, 10 years, I use 5 years. If it wasn't bullet points, I wrote a narrative of, okay, I said, so it's June something, and the year is 2000 something, and here I am. I am working with entrepreneurs I love doing every day. Maybe my client load is X, maybe it's a little lower than it is today or tomorrow, whatever. I am enjoying time with my grandchildren. We are making frequent trips to Chicago to visit our daughter and our grandchildren there. We're more involved volunteering with the church. You name whatever, you literally write a little paragraph or two of a story of what it looks like in those 10 years. And now take that and share it with your spouse or significant other and say, what do you think? Because you might be surprised to find that maybe your spouse says, really, it's not what I was thinking. So now there's some time to dialogue and figure out we're on this journey together. Let's make sure we all end up at the same place and we all get the things we want out of life. It's a simple exercise. It just takes time, courage, and vulnerability to just talk about what we want.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think, and I'm guilty of this, is we're just afraid to say what we want sometimes, even to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. To just say what we want and what we hope for, what would make us happy, because it's available, it's out there, and we can do it. And we have the tools to do it. It takes courage and it takes work. I can speak from experience. I spent 33 years in an industry that was very frustrating for me. We were very successful at it. And we built some wonderful teams of people that I love dearly. They're some of my best friends and they remain my best friends. But it was a very dog eat dog business. It was very tough. I'm not built that way. I'm a more abundance mindset guy. And I never realized how frustrating it was until I stepped away from it. I just told myself it was time to step away from that environment and do something that spoke to my heart more.
Mm-hmm.
And probably, I remember, I'm going to paraphrase this, a quote, I think it was Oprah Winfrey that once said something about, if you keep hearing something whispering in your ear long enough, it's probably the thing you should pay attention to, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And it's been whispering in my ear for years that you need to be a teacher and a guide and a coach and to help others through this journey that you've been through, which has been really great and really bad at times. So at age 57, which was 5.5 years ago, I decided to step away from this industry that I was an absolute success and an expert in, and say, I need something different for my soul because it matches more who I am. And it has made all the difference for me. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. I love the people I work around. I love being around people like the Gino Wickmans and the Rob Dubays that are out there doing the same thing I'm doing, trying to help people. And we just get energized by it. And so I wish for anyone that's listening to this that they search for that love that they have for something. You will be successful at it, and you will change the world if you have the courage to go and do it.
Absolutely. But it's identifying what you are really great at. Lewis Schiff talks about it too.
Yeah.
He calls it the first habit. But identifying what you love doing, what you make money doing best, and then learning how to focus on that and outsource and delegate everything else. Now, is there a discipline that is similar to that? Because I think that's key, because then you get to do what you're great at that you love doing, and then you have all the support around you.
You are in luck. Discipline, I think it's number 7. Don't do $25 an hour work. Now, we're not disparaging $25 an hour work, but if you're a 6-digit income person, my question to you is, what stuff are you doing every day that, first of all, you're probably not good at if you're being honest, right? And second of all, it drains your energy. And I know I have stuff like that I just, my gosh, it's just like setting up technology and stuff for things like this. I don't know the first thing about it. I'm terrible at it, and I hate doing it. If I have to, I can, but it just drains my energy. So how can we delegate to other people those things? And mind you, it's not delegating terrible tasks to somebody else. We're actually giving them a gift because somebody out there loves doing this stuff. To them, this is their unique ability. It's their sweet spot. So you are giving them a gift. So if you had something you weren't good at and you didn't like, and you called me and it was something I loved, I would thank you for that. And vice versa. Like hosting podcasts. I don't know that I would be very good at that, but you are. And so I'm glad to be on your podcast, but I'm glad you're hosting it. And that's your unique ability.
Okay, but I've got to give a secret then, because I've been doing this for probably almost 15 years. And right from the beginning, I never did it on my own. What I did is I sat down and I wrote down all the steps that had to happen for this show to happen, right? And I created a system. And then I found someone who could do each of those steps. And so I just had to invite someone, and then they would show up. Now, I did more of the tasks in the beginning. But I hired my first person, and they ran behind the scenes. And there also was a producer for the show in the old days, because podcasts were a lot different. We actually had an internet radio show to start out with. But the thing was, that person refined it, and I had it written down so that she could give it to the next person who stepped in, and then they refined it. The current person I have right now kept saying, Katana, I went to school for this. We can produce this ourselves, right? And since I let her completely take over all that stuff, she's so fast and it's easy for her, right?
It's easy.
And so and this is what I always say, if I had to do all that stuff, none of it would happen. So you have to, if you can find the team. And then the other thing that's really great is when you find the team, you're helping them become wealthy because they're being able to focus on their unique ability. They build a life for themselves doing something they love, and you become this great team. And this can be even in relationships, if you think about it. So this whole idea.
When you think about it, what you're doing is you are finding your purpose and your meaning. And at the same time, you're helping others find theirs. Yeah. And what a wonderful thing. And I try to teach this to the companies that I consult with. Your job is to create an environment where everyone can shine, where everyone can feel like they love what they do. Of course, there's always parts of our job we have to do with little bits and pieces. We're never going to be 100% in what we do. I don't think so, but we can't be 80% in these areas where we just, wring our necks. Oh my gosh, I can't stand this. It's a job, they pay me. It's going to, like you said, lead to burnout. I'm going to want to quit or whatever, or just be miserable. So if we can get all of our people elevated to an area where they love their work and they're engaged in it and they feel like they matter, those are the companies that soar. Those are the families that are healthy and strong. Those are the organizations, the groups, even the friends groups that get together. They're the ones that are strong and do the most for everyone because they just believe the same things. They want to help each other get better at what they're doing. And that's what you do every day. That's what I'm trying to do every day. And that's what Gino and Rob do when they're 10 disciplines workshop, because we've all been there. We're not that unique. I always tell people, oh yeah, I'm unique, just like everybody else. I'm so plain and ordinary. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing. And so once you feel like you understand it better, it only took me 62 years. I'm a quick learner. But once you feel like you understand it, all you want to do is share it and help. And that's what I think you're doing with this podcast. And hopefully I'm contributing to that in a good way.
Oh, absolutely. We're at the end of the show now. We hit a couple of
so fast.
It really did. But it's such an exciting topic, and to be able to have the success that you've always dreamed of, but with the happiness and the joy and the ease and the vibrant health, that's so important too. That's really having it all.
I agree. And it takes work to get there. And discipline. It's really mostly about discipline, but just believe in what you want, have the discipline to take the steps like you did, and it'll happen. It doesn't happen overnight, but it'll happen, and it'll not only awaken you and make you a better person, but it emanates around you. Everyone around you is made better by being around you.
So I want to share the link. They just have to Google the 10disciplines.com. They'll get all 10 of these. We only hit a couple of them. And how would you like people to connect with you if they're looking to do some coaching on this kind of an area?
Okay, so just to wrap that part up, I'll give you a link to this article, which is the 10 disciplines. It's a very short, it's like a 20 or 30 page, like an ebook. It was the start of this whole thing. Again, it's not my workshop. This is Gino Wickman's, but I believe in it so much I love it. And Gino and Rob just published a book called Shine. Wonderful book that walks you through a little more deeper dive into the 10 disciplines. It's on Amazon everywhere. I recommend that they pick it up. For the 10 disciplines workshop, you can learn more about it. Just go online. You can Google 10 disciplines or 10disciplines.com. For me, I'm on LinkedIn. You can always find me there, or you can go to eosworldwide.com/Mike-Gruley. And that would be my website. But the best way is you can catch me on LinkedIn. I'm always out there. And my job is being an EOS implementer. So I help implement the entrepreneurial operating system into privately owned businesses to help them get the things they want from their business. So with that, everyone, I want to again thank you, Mike, for being here, and everyone who is watching or listening. Thank you so much for being here today. You can always connect with us at joinsmartwomen.com. And until our next show, go out and live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity. Smart Women Talk is brought to you by Smart Women's Empowerment, a 501c3 nonprofit project of United Charitable. Music by Bill Lucas from his album When It Rains. Available on Apple Music and Spotify. Catch us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and be sure to join our free community at joinsmartwomen.com to access all our free Smart Women resources.